Welcome back to Genesis Sais Quoi. Today's episode is an absolute honor to host because I am sitting down with a woman who is a true architect of hope in our community. Dana Williams is the president of Fort Bend Mental Health, but she is much more than a title. She is a visionary leader who has turned the absolute unthinkable into an unstoppable movement for healing. Dana's life is a masterclass in identity-first leadership. She has walked through the darkest valleys of suicide loss and emerged not just a survivor, but a lighthouse for everyone else still navigating the fog. What makes Dana so remarkable is her ability to transform personal pain into a sanctuary for our neighbors. Through her work, she is changing the very DNA of Fort Bend County, moving us from a place that suffers in silence to a community that responds with clarity and deep compassion. I want to be honest with our listeners. We are going to dive into some heavy waters today. We're talking about loss, the weight of advocacy, and the reality of grief. But with Dana as our guide, this conversation isn't just about the struggle. It is a celebration of the strength that comes after the storm. Please help me welcome Dana Williams. Dana, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I would just love to jump in with you.
Let's go.
Your openness about your past has helped so many people in Fort Bend feel less alone. If you're up for it, I'd love to ask a few questions about your personal experience with your loss to help my listeners understand the why behind your mission. Does that feel okay for you today?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not my favorite subject, but obviously it's an important one. Well, I have to start with actually my friend. So I had a friend and mentor. His name was Jim Howard, and we worked together. And he was just such a delightful person. And in January of 2019, I got a devastating phone call learning that he had died by suicide. And it impacted our entire family. He had been the kids pastor at our church. We worked together on staff. He was, like I said, a mentor to me. And it just rocked my world. And obviously that of my children and my husband, because we were all really good friends with him. And so it just kind of set me on a journey of processing that grief. And I did it so publicly.
Really? What do you mean
in
by
some
that?
ways? So I started writing stories about him. I started telling, some of the behind the scenes experiences that you don't necessarily, I can share a little bit more about that, but like the things that I remembered about him. And it was widely known that he had died by suicide. That was not a secret. When it came out, the people who knew first, and then it hit the national headlines. And, that was part of the reason that it was so devastating, because there were all these people who didn't know weighing in on the subject.
Right.
Even a favorite podcaster hosted his pastor on the podcast to talk about leadership through that situation. And that was a rough interview, but yeah. So I just had it was a lot to process. I was in a leadership role at the time.
From there, that led you to go on this journey of I'm going to heal publicly. And what happened there? People would just start asking you questions.
So when you start talking about things publicly, people realize you're a safe person to talk to about that topic. And so it just became part of, my everyday language. It wasn't as taboo to bring up this subject. And so I just started having a lot more private conversations. And then from there, a little over 2 years later, I realized that one of my own kids was in crisis. And we navigated that very much alone, because you have to be careful with a teenager's feelings and not share everything all over the internet. And so we navigated that process largely by ourselves. And that's kind of how I got into the work, is just remembering that day. But then a year after that, one of my closest friends made an attempt on her life, and she lived in another state. So I actually, knowing what it was like to go through that, continually reached out to her family to check in, see how I could be supportive, even though we were 1,000 miles apart, and ended up going up there for several days so that her husband could take a break, go get a breather, and somebody else could kind of keep watch for a season.
Sure.
And we had a really, really meaningful conversation on my last day there that really kind of transformed things for her. amongst other people. But those were some of the things that happened that led me to realize, like, I've had some experiences. I'm willing to talk about them. And the people that I've been through those experiences with have given me permission to share about these things. And so how much better would it be for someone else who finds themselves in that situation, whether it's somebody who's lost somebody who is supporting somebody, or those two things, to know that they're not alone and to have a resource, somebody who could say, I've been there, it's awful, here's what I wish I knew. Yeah, some different experiences have brought different perspective, and I've learned different lessons through each one. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, these aren't lessons that we want to learn.
No.
These aren't things we want to go through, but
no.
How amazing is it that you got to take this, with people's permission as well, to like share and hopefully change and save lives.
Yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for that, for sure.
Beyond the advocacy and the leadership, what is your favorite memory you hold on to that reminds you of the light that your loved one who took his life brought into the world?
Okay, so I told you Jim was so fun to work with.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always will remember about Jim was how he could be both so fun-loving and on mission at the same time. I carry so many leadership lessons from him. And side note, he's actually the person who legitimately got me into therapy the very first time, for real.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I don't take that lightly, and I'm so grateful for it. But yeah, to give you an example of that fun, loving spirit along with on mission, I remember this one day we were arriving at kids camp. We were getting everything set up, and my daughter was old enough for the first time to go to kids camp. And so she had come along early with us, and we were running around in a golf cart to go get things done.
As one does.
So I have this video where he's driving the golf cart, she's sitting in the front seat, and then my coworker and I are sitting in the back seat, and he's giving my daughter the hardest time because he's pretending like he's driving with his eyes closed. And so he's driving all over the place, and she's screaming at him and whacking him, and we're just howling, laughing in the back seat because he just, we had to go get a task done, but the task could be fun while we were doing it. And it was always like that working with him. Once he took a position out at a big church in California, and we stayed in touch. And I remember joking with him because he'd come back and see what I was doing in my work. And I'm like, you're going to steal all my ideas, and then you're going to, broadcast it. And so anyways, he was such a good friend, such a good mentor. And, he was one of these people who was very open about his struggles in a way that was different. I took note of it because, he had ADHD, and he talked very openly about it. He was maybe the first person I'd ever experienced who was that open about the medication that he took and all of that sort of thing with it. And so, yeah, I still admire Jim in a lot of ways.
It sounds like he was somebody who really changed your life.
Yeah.
As you look back on these like memories where he was like laughing and, joking around and was able to capture this beautiful, like two things at once kind of person, do you ever look back and go like, I didn't see the signs of...
Oh, 1,000%. In fact, a mutual friend from a different church called me with the news. I hadn't heard it. She called me assuming I already knew and saying, I'm so sorry, Dana. And turned out we were the first people from our congregation to learn about it. And so I was calling the best friends from around here. My husband and I were making those phone calls, and it was devastating to hear those reactions because for the most part, they were so shocked because it seemed so impossible that somebody who is, like you said, such a light would make a decision like that. So yeah, that was really, really tough.
And what a burden to take on, to be the one to call people. It
was a very difficult task to do. And I was grateful for those people in the way that we were able to come together. And, there is that thing. One of my friends, Jazz, who's on the board at Fort Bend Mental Health with me, says all the time, we heal in community. And that is absolutely the truth.
You've experienced that firsthand. So when you started Fort Bend Mental Health, you were able to say, I know this is true, and this has to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
When you first began speaking publicly about your experience with suicide loss, as we talked about, what was the most important truth you wanted people to understand about those who are left behind?
The most important truth I think at the beginning, I was just kind of sorting through it myself. I was processing, I was putting the words, putting the words together. Some things that I learned during that season that maybe I would pass on to others is I remember this moment. I was having a really bad day at work and just really grief stricken. And a friend of mine who had experienced her own style of grief saw me in a storage closet. I was organizing some things and she came in there. She's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "I'm not good." And we both sat down on the floor for, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour. And I will never forget the kindness of her just asking questions about him and hearing stories. And I'm forever grateful for Darlene sitting with me that day and just letting me share, because it really did like help me move through more of that grief. I was in a community that didn't really know him, and so for somebody in that new community to take the time to hear why it was so impactful to me was, yeah. 6 years later, here I am still like this. And the sad thing about that, and the true thing about that, is she had been through grief. She knew what was needed in that moment. And so it was just another example of somebody who had been there passing it along. So,
yeah. Wow. I can't imagine that moment though, but to have somebody to lean on is so important.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Oh my gosh, now I'm crying.
I know. And so then, as time transpired, I was at a leadership conference in an organization that Jim introduced me to. And it just so happened that there was a guy there who was working on a new advocacy thing in terms of depression and suicide. And they had done a research project where they had discovered this fact that depression doesn't lead to suicide. Mm-hmm. It's hopelessness and despair. And to me, that was a light bulb moment of like,
wow.
Oh, people live with depression their entire lives. That's a different thing. When you realize that hopelessness comes into the picture, that is a big warning sign. And it was probably the thing that made me realize that my kid was really struggling, because I knew that, that she had pulled back, that there was, a withdrawal for a season. But once I heard that language of hopelessness and despair, that's when I knew I needed to take action. So maybe that is the message. I don't know that I was like intentional about it at the time, but I definitely wanted people to learn what I had learned about that, because we want to blame it on things. The messaging when Jim died was that it was medication and it was, these other things. And I'm like, he and others were feeling a hopelessness. I couldn't get around and find a different way through this. So I would love to see culture and communities alleviate that despair.
When you heard that phrase, which by the way, that light bulb for me just now, mm-hmm. But when you heard that and you knew that your child was going through something that did you maybe at first chalk it all up to teenagers, they're moody, yes. They pull away a little bit. So you kind of, I think as people, we look at people and just go, oh, they're just going through something, hormones.
Yep.
So that moment for you was like, we need to do something. So did you just immediately say, we need to get in therapy? Like, if you don't mind me asking, what did you do to jump in?
So, yeah. And this night of my life actually really informs a lot of what we're doing at Foreman Mental Health. So I think it's a really good story to tell. And I have to be careful with it because, of course, it's my kids. But I realized that, for months, my kid was like rejecting hugs and things like that. In some ways, that's kind of normal as a teenager, but there was also that withdrawal, just, not talking, sullenness, all of those sorts of warning signs. And, I kept trying to open conversation and just kept hitting a wall. I discovered that my kid was doing something she shouldn't have been doing. And so she was in trouble. But that particular flavor of, mischief that she had gotten into actually broke down the walls, where she started sharing, okay, this is what's actually going on. Wow. And I realized quickly I was in the deep end and I didn't know what to do. Luckily for me, my best friend, Marcia, is a licensed clinical social worker, and she had spent that time in COVID working with people in hospital intake. And so she'd seen a lot of teenagers who were coming in with suicidal ideation. So I thought of her immediately because I'm like, she'll know what to do.
I'm so
And
thankful
so,
you had her.
yes. Now, she didn't live nearby. And so it wasn't like she could just come over, but she was available by phone. And I put my daughter on the phone and she asked her a series of questions and then put me back on the phone and said, I think you need to take her in. And with that advice, I started searching around to like, okay, where do we go? How do we figure this out? Because she didn't know the local hospitals or anything like that. So, she helped me that night just to navigate the whole system, even some questions with the doctor when we came in there about like, what do we want to do next? Because it was my first time.
Yeah.
I didn't know the process. Man, I wish that there was some kind of a guidebook or something like that. So that's, future Dana plans of like, let's put together a guidebook so that when somebody gets into that situation and they realize maybe it's not just their kid, it's their best friend, it's their partner, it's somebody. How do I navigate this and what are the decisions I'm going to need to make? The same way that we know when you think you might have cancer, you go see a doctor and then they do some tests and then they come back with the results and then you're going to, do a follow-up and create a treatment plan. We have an idea of what that treatment plan looks like. People have absolutely no idea what a mental health treatment plan looks like when it goes beyond, going into a therapist office and talking to a therapist. Yeah. And so educating people on how does that process work? What are the local resources for that? I think back to that version of me and how much a tool like that would have made such a difference rather than, navigating blindly, trying to figure out what is the next step. How do we do this?
Right.
So on our website, yes, we have the very most basic framework. And if you're on our website, which is fbmentalhealth.com, it asks in crisis and there's buttons at the top so that's the very first thing. If you get there, you don't have to search for it. It's right away. And it will give you, here's how to look for warning signs, which comes up in talk, behavior, and mood, and, some examples of that. And then, okay, so if you notice those things, how do you start that conversation? And then from there, now, if they say, yeah, I am actually struggling, how do you connect people with care? And it's got, 988 is the crisis hotline. It works all over the country. Ours here locally goes to Texana. And so the local number for Texana is there. So you don't even have to go through that switchboard. But yeah, it's the most basic framework I can think of right now. I have visions and dreams of like, how could we make this friendlier and, just guide people through, okay, what happens next once you connect them with that care. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing that there is that resource mm-hmm. and that is available, I mean, I can't even imagine how many people you guys have been able to help.
Yeah. I mean, we are a brand new organization. So just getting started where people are realizing that Fort Bend Mental Health is actually a resource. And we are kind of I would call us a referring resource. Our three things are education, connection, and advocacy. And so I think of us as kind of like, when you go into a theme park and they've got all those signs that point in the different directions to all the different things that are available. That's how I think of us and our website is, how do we point people to the resources that they need? Because honestly, when you're first starting out in this, there's so much lingo that people don't know. They don't know what to ask for. They don't know what to look up. And so how do we be that translator from clinical speak to everyday person speak? So
yeah, and that's so important. I feel like no one expects to be in this position.
No.
So they don't sit and learn these lingos because they're like, I won't need it.
Right.
So this is so important that you guys are being that direction board because
I hope so.
Without you, they won't know the next step.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is so important is because there's a lot of really great resources out there for the person struggling and at a national level. But I really wanted what our work was, or our work is to be granular right here at the local level. Can I drive to this place? Could I meet this person for coffee? Like that sort of local resources, because we live in such a digital age and there is something that is very healing and good for us about being in actual proximity with one another. So,
Going back to community.
Yeah, 1,000%.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Dana, you often say we don't need to be more productive. We just need to be more us. But for you, being you means carrying the weight of being a suicide loss survivor, a mother who fought for her child's life, and now the president of Fort Bend Mental Health. In a world that tells us to hide our scars, How did you find the courage to turn your deepest personal pain into a public mission for the community?
Yeah.
Girl.
Some of it was that realization of like, I don't want anyone to ever feel the way that I did. That night after, we spent a night in a hospital the next day. She was very lucky. She was able to get a bed at a behavioral health hospital the very next day. And it was awful to have to leave my kid there. But she was safe, and it gave us a chance to rest for a little bit. But we came home just completely lost. And a friend of mine came over, and she held my hand and cried with me while I sat on the couch, not knowing what to do. And it was funny because I was running a meal train for some dear friends of mine who he had gotten a cancer diagnosis, and they were going through it. And I was keeping this thing going while holding this thing privately, knowing that I needed the exact same care that I was providing for somebody else. Ugh. And so I think it's going back to those feelings that motivate me, so that our communities can learn better to destigmatize this, to realize that mental unhealth is not contagious, that you're not going to catch it by bringing over a casserole. Yeah. Even showing up and leaning in and being closer is actually healing for the person and their family, to know that somebody cares enough to just like show up and be present. So knowing what it felt like to be me in that moment, coupled with the people that I most admire are not the people with the perfect shiny resumes and the perfect Instagram feed. It's the people who have been through something and come out stronger, or who've made a difference based on that. And so if that's true of them, that I admire them for that, then why wouldn't it be true for me?
That's so true. And I feel like just like you said, when you were going through your healing journey and were so open about it and people felt like they could come to you and speak to you, it's like having that vulnerability, having that honesty makes people be real with you. It makes people look at you and go, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
Because it's not you just telling people what to do, it's showing people what you've done.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I've told friends and other people, like, feel free to give out my phone number. If somebody is struggling with this, like, I will, even knowing that someone else has been through it is sometimes enough to carry you through, to taking the next step or whatever you need to do for, to take action for the people that you care about. So, yeah.
I think that's part of despair, is feeling alone.
Mm-hmm.
And having people who've, like a community, or having people who've come out on the other side, you can kind of be like, I'm maybe not alone.
Right.
Not that that's a fix, but...
No. But yeah, it does. It gives courage. When I was in kids ministry, we used to say that, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of, if they can see it, they can believe it. And we used it in, having diverse leadership. Like, we wanted people who looked like the kids who were in our communities in leadership, and so that they could look up to somebody who was like them, a future version of them, to imagine that they could be that. And so I think that's true when somebody is struggling, to realize that someone else has actually been through this and they survived and they're actually thriving on the other side. That's inspirational, and that brings hope. Yeah. To not have to be the first one to cut the path.
Right. Because like, nobody else has ever struggled with this. I mean, even in much smaller scenarios, I think we look around sometimes and go, gosh, nobody else is dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something that's so powerful in the vulnerability of letting people know you've struggled too.
Definitely. I was trying so hard to be an amazing mom before all of this. And when I realized that my kid was hurting like this, it made me question so much of my pathway, like, these standards that I was holding them to and all of this sort of thing. So I redefined what is success for me as a mom. And my definition of success is, are my kids still intentionally pursuing relationship back with me? Because they're both young adults now. And so, that may not be what you can define success by when they're a preschooler, elementary kid, or even a high schooler. But my kids seek me out. They want to spend time with me. And I needed to relieve some of that pressure I was putting on them to be perfect and to achieve and to be all those things. And so, letting off that tension and just prioritizing, okay, you're the kid I got. Let me get to know you has been a really powerful journey. So, and when they frustrate me or irritate me or don't do the things that I think they should do, I go back to, okay, what's the number one thing here? It's like, do I want to be able to be in relationship with them, have influence with them? I don't get to do that by controlling them.
It's true though. But do you find that because you do that, now they come to you more often and they're more open with
Yes.
you and more honest, and you can lovingly, without controlling, guide them?
Yes.
Like they're more open.
Yeah. Yeah, they want the guidance now. Yeah.
Because you built that trust of, I love you where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl, you are on the other side.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there will always be growth. And, we're in the phase where we're launching them or relaunching them right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's always a season of relaunching with these babies. You're like, come home a little, relaunch.
Yeah.
How has your understanding of grief evolved into the advocacy work you do now at Fort Bend Mental Health?
Grief at first was just processing and doing my own healing.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was already seeing a therapist, so the conversations changed and that sort of thing. And then I think after that, I realized that I really was wanting to gather in a community. And so when my friend Gretchen was like, hey, let's put on the Hike for Hope walk for AFSP, I thought to myself, I don't really need to add another thing to my plate. However, being in relationship with people who have experienced this kind of loss could be really good for me. And so that was my first thought, was like, what am I going to get out of this? And obviously it has evolved over time. One of the things that I've seen as I have been on this pathway is, what do I think is missing from the mental wellness, the suicide prevention narrative? And I think one of the things that it's well-intentioned. And so I don't have a problem with it if you say this. So hear me clearly when I say that. But I think that it misses the mark, because we are always saying to the person who is struggling, reach out, ask for help. And if you've ever been in a situation where you were feeling mentally unhealthy, you were having a bad day, whatever it was, or it was a deep depression, trying to ask for that help can feel nearly impossible. I mean, if you think about it, symptoms of depression, anxiety, things like that can look like, not being able to get out of bed. Do you think they can actually send a text message? I think of it more like the Heimlich maneuver now. Like when somebody is choking, they physically can't ask you for help. They can show you maybe some signs that they're struggling, and then it's our responsibility to notice that person is not well, and that they know how to take action and know how to alleviate that. And so, in first aid classes or CPR classes, we learn how to do that for other people. And I'm like, why not with mental health? Why not when it comes to somebody else who's struggling? Why can't those of us who might see ourselves as helpers take on the responsibility of going, oh, that person, their mood seems down, they're not participating in the things that they used to, or whatever it is that you're seeing, and the little signal goes off that says, hey, that's not normal. Let me start a conversation. Let me see if I can get them to the kind of care that they need. And if we implemented the key of community and families, coworkers, colleagues, classmates, whoever, knowing what to do, knowing how to find it, what to do about it, I think it would make a world of difference. Because I didn't go to therapy until Jim told me to go to therapy, and literally made the appointment.
He did it for you?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
My kid didn't know how to ask for help. My friend didn't know how to ask for help. And so I just think that's the key that's going to make such a difference. I think it'll save lives, because I've already seen it happen. Because even if it's not as desperate as somebody wanting to harm themselves, even if it is the myriad of other things that can impact our mental wellness. Having somebody to say, hey, you need to see a doctor, like if you've got a cold or whatever, like that would make such a difference. It's the new thing that I hope I'm bringing to the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely, I mean,
So, so when people see Fortman Mental Health, I think they think that we provide stuff for people who are struggling. And like I said, we're this directional sign. Here's where you get the help. We're not necessarily that, but I'm on a mission to equip people to point people in the right direction, to know how to start those conversations. And I think that would change, first of all, our county and then the world.
You've mentioned that sometimes we have to hold hope for others until they can hold it for themselves. I feel like this ties exactly into what we were just talking about. Was there a specific person in your own journey who held hope for you when you saw other people's lights go out, or when you were dealing with...
That award would have to go to my best friend, Marcia. Yeah. And over the years, she has done it more times than I can possibly count. I am very fortunate to have a friend who literally does, she's a therapist. She works with people in this way. And so, but it's mutual. Like, I also do it for her. And so things that she's taught me would be like, one thing would be the purpose of a hard conversation. So sometimes we have to have a hard conversation in order to get to the goal that we want. And she is masterful at a hard conversation. And so, that's a skill set. Also, she's incredibly good at seeing things from other people's perspective. So she when I've struggled with something, she can reflect back to me like what it feels like to be me right now. And that sometimes is enough to make me go, okay, so this thing is hard and I'm going to get through it. So, yeah, I feel like that doesn't do it justice to tell you all the ways that she has been that for me. But I know that the experiences that I've had with her, especially, informed my time with my friend. She couldn't say the deepest thing in her soul that was making her feel that way. And the last night that I stayed with her, I guess I was quiet enough and had been there long enough and had leaned in enough that she finally whispered it. And from there, everything started to change. It took a while, but it's so fun to see her thriving now.
You deal with life and death topics every day, literally. From your experience, how do you prevent the stories you hear from reopening your own wounds?
Yeah. In a word, therapy. Therapy is, not really a prevention, but it does give you the tools that you can access when things like that come up. So therapy gives me a place to be able to talk about those things with somebody who's objective and who knows me and can reflect back to me those things. So I would say that first. But then I think the tools is maybe the more important part, tools that help me ground, get back into my body and being centered and things like that can be really helpful when you're feeling triggered by a story, because we're human and we're not robots. So things are going to affect us. And so, for me, sometimes when people are not careful with their language about suicide, and they haven't been taught to be, the things that we've been taught are not necessarily what mental health professionals say are the best ways to handle the topic. It's a delicate topic. Yeah. And so as somebody who is, I'm a volunteer presenter for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I have training I even give training on what to say and what not to say. And I noticed that when things come up, like somebody dying by the same means as my friend, I actually didn't know how it happened for weeks afterwards. And it was irrelevant, and it kind of is irrelevant. That information can spread contagion. So we don't talk about how somebody made an attempt or died by suicide because of the ramifications of that, or the fact that it can trigger people who are close to them or who may struggle themselves. Yeah. And so, in this work, sometimes I notice that those things come up for me, and I'm learning to be able to express, why is it important that we're careful with this language? How can we redirect the conversation? Because people have powerful stories, and those powerful stories deserve to be shared. They deserve to help heal other people. And so one of the things I have on the horizon for us is a workshop that will help people tell their survivors, people who have lived experience, be able to tell their own story in a way that is powerful and meaningful and will make a difference, but it will help not to cause that, contagion, those triggers, those sorts of things. So yeah, tools, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with the tools you're mentioning, and with that, like, how do you maybe be hearing someone as telling a story about someone they know or whatever.
Yep.
Do you ever have to like lovingly correct people on their language or
yes,
no?
It's super uncomfortable.
That was kind of like, how does that?
Yeah, I try to be really careful about it. I've gotten feedback that I'm listening to about like, how should we do that? How do we approach that? And it's one of the reasons that I want that workshop to exist, because it creates a safe space to tell those stories as raw as they need to be, and then refine them so that they are useful and helpful in the future. For myself in those moments, I have to use my own tool belt, like, breathing exercises, grounding, talking to somebody, my therapist or things like that, to help like bring me back to center, to make sure that I can keep doing this work.
That was good. My next question is, what do you do? Yeah. Like, actually, do you
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of tools.
I feel like you need to.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, even if I didn't do this work, I would still reach for these things. So for any of your listeners, like, don't think that you have to be in the weeds like I am to be able to reach for these tools. One of my favorite tools is the Calm app. I use that on a daily basis. In fact, I played one on the way over here to make sure that I was just in a good headspace for our conversation. Getting outside. I got a dog 2 years ago. His name is Maverick. He's a rescue. He was about 2 when I got him, and he's a Yorkie Silky mix.
Okay, so
and
cute.
He's cute. He's like 12 pounds and super chill. So you think of Yorkies as kind of yappy, but he's pretty chill. But Maverick, in the time that we've had together, has taught me really good lessons about the basics of life, about eating meals at regular times, about going on a walk and stopping to smell things and getting fresh air and being out in nature, about the importance of sleep. About 10 o'clock every morning, Maverick goes back and puts himself down for a nap.
Maverick knows what's up.
He knows what's up, and he's teaching me lessons all the time. But, it's things like that, like taking care of the basics. Those are other ways that, that I have to care for myself in this work. But that applies to anybody, whether you're a school teacher or a stay-at-home parent or the CEO of a corporation. Like, every single person, a high school junior, like every single person needs the basics. We need nutritious food. We need good sleep. We need to move our bodies. We need fresh air.
Touch grass.
Touch grass is scientific.
Yes.
Yes.
That's so great that you are able to know what you need and actively do those things. And also, I love that you're able to just watch Maverick be Maverick and go, oh yeah, I can.
Reminder. Now
I can do that.
Yes, and so he doesn't have the ability to tell me those things, and so I am, I had to put things into my day to create those rhythms, because if I may be diagnosed with ADHD, my doctor and I started a conversation with it, so to be determined, But like, Alexa reminds me when it's time to go walk Maverick. And so I have these little reminders in my daily life about the basics. So
we all need them, though. You're absolutely right, though. Yes. It does, at the end of the day, whatever path you are on, we need to remember those things.
We do.
Yep. We just don't.
Yep. Yeah. So Alexa tells me every day it's time for AWALK. I thought it would be funny if my dog knew how to spell. So he does.
Does he? When he
he looks at me. Oh, is it time? Are we going?
Like, hey, Alexa just said.
Yeah.
Are you listening?
Yes.
That's hilarious. Let's talk mind, body, spirit. Okay. I know we mentioned that a little earlier, but I definitely want to dive into that a little bit more. How do you explain the connection with these 3 pillars to someone who has only ever looked at mental health through the clinical or medical lens?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because when people talk about mental health, we tend to ascribe negative connotation always.
Right.
And I like to think of our mental wellness on a spectrum. I think you probably noticed that I've been using that word because wellness takes it out of that, oh, this is, I have mental health. Well, everyone has mental health, just like
Right.
everyone has physical health, and they are connected.
Yeah.
And, spiritually connected too, in the sense that like the part of us that you can't see, that's not just your feelings, which come and go, that part of you that stays and remains, that is a piece of it too. And so, there's a lot more scientific research about how the gut impacts the brain and how the brain and the chemicals that are going through can impact our feelings for the good or for the bad. And like we just said a little bit ago, the food that you eat, the sleep that you get, all of those things, they play into each other. And I think that when they work together, they spiral up or they spiral down. And so we get to make choices about our wellness that can either improve it or make it worse. And so paying attention to that and making sure that we invest in those things is really useful. So
Yeah. Investing in us.
yes. Last week we got to go out to Tomas High School with our first ever program in partnership with LCISD. And we taught freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, about 250 of them, about 7 aspects of wellness in your life. And it was super cool to be able to hear the kids afterwards. They were in their advisory period. And so I was taking them candy and saying, give me a takeaway for a Tootsie Roll. So they were telling me things that they had learned. And some of the kids said that that they didn't realize that spiritual wellness was an aspect of that. Or another kid told me, I didn't realize that spiritual wellness wasn't necessarily religion. And we talked about social wellness, and kids were saying things like, I need to be a little more open with my friends. They all had a lot of them had answers about physical wellness, but that one's pretty commonly talked about in our culture. So yeah, it was really cool just to see them take away bits and pieces. And we left them with the encouragement to go and talk to a trusted adult about, any area of this where they felt like they needed to make some improvements. So, and we also told them no one's going to get a perfect score when it comes to your wellness. There's always something to work on. So I think we also have to give ourselves grace and space for us not to do everything perfectly all the time. It's impossible.
Girl, say it again for the people in the back. It's so true.
Yes.
And it's a constant practice to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And you may excel at one for a season, and then that one falls by the wayside while you pay attention to another one. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like trying to keep balls in the air. And yeah, I'm not a great juggler.
We're all doing the best we can.
We get.
But I love that you got to go talk to kids about it. I feel like because we all have mental health.
Yes.
It's something we should start talking about early.
Yes.
It's not like you become a teenager and all of a sudden you have mental health.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'm excited about the future of that program under our education umbrella. I worked with 3 therapists on putting together that presentation, and I'm just so excited about that one. I'm so excited about what is to come, because we were talking about, okay, what's version 2 for high school students, but also in the future, I'm like, what will we teach kindergartners when it comes to being aware of our mental wellness, and teaching these things at age appropriate levels. I just get goosebumps when I think about the possibility of that in our school districts locally.
Seeing that that's something that you guys are diving into at the beginning stages of, it's a part of letting the community know that they have options.
Yes.
Some kids sees their friend struggling or their parent, and maybe they can help and go, hey, Mom, I see you're sad. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah. I'm excited about the possibilities here. So
yeah, I'm like telling you all this, you're like, I know.
No, not at all. No, well, I hadn't really thought about the kids bringing it home to their parents, but even just that awareness of being able to say, I'm not okay, and here's where I'm not okay. Like I said, it can be hard to say those things, but what if you had language from a young age to be able to do that?
Mm-hmm. Or just
I can't wait to teach these kids the feelings we all.
I love it. I'm here for this. I'm excited, and I love that is a big part of what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
because it is so important.
Yeah,
and I think you know that, and I'll tell you.
I have kids. They're grown, and I've watched them struggle with different things. Either an unwillingness to engage with feelings, or feeling overwhelmed by your feelings, and we have to be able to talk about them. I think of feelings like I think about colors. So,
Say
so I don't know if your community is familiar with the feelings wheel, but it's basically this wheel where in the inside it starts out with like 6 basic feelings, and then you go a little deeper, and each of those branches off into, I don't know, about 3, and then on the third level it branches off into like 9 or something like that, and it just digs into different layers. So at the first level you might see sad, mad, happy, disgust, or things like that.
Yeah.
It might remind you of the movie Inside Out.
One of my favorites.
Such a good one. But then, as you go, okay, well, I'm feeling mad about this. You can go into the next layer and realize that you're feeling hurt, or you're feeling enraged, or something like that. And so when it comes to colors, that first level is like, you've got your primary colors. You've got red, blue, yellow, green. And so, but there are nuances within those colors. So you've got navy blue, you've got royal blue, you've got light blue. And so we can describe those things. And once we have that language for those things, it paints a much clearer picture of how we're feeling, because mad can mean a whole myriad of things. Sad can mean a whole bunch of different things. But what if we had the tools to be able to say what it was? Like, how much does that benefit us in relationship, and also releasing feelings? Because feelings, they come, they inform us, and then they go away.
Yeah.
And so they're messengers, and they're nothing to be afraid of. So, yeah.
Right. I love that you said that. I mean, because it's true. Don't they say you actually have a feeling for like 90 seconds? Mm-hmm. And as long as you can, like, from that point, like, pinpoint it, like, figure out where it is and like work through.
Yeah. As long as you don't stuff it down and bottle it up.
Right. Because then it's like, 90 seconds, and it's like an hour, then it's like a day.
Yeah. And it is that pushing away or that stuffing down that causes our feelings to linger and actually compound into worse things. But if you can acknowledge, like, man, I'm irritated. My kids didn't do the dishes and they should have done the dishes. Like, and let that be, and let it be okay that I feel irritation about this chore that they're supposed to do that they didn't do, like, then it doesn't build into resentment and deeper things that actually can impact our lives and our relationships. Yeah.
Well, and that just goes to remind us again that whatever season you're in, taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Listening to your feelings.
Being attentive, I think, is okay. Yeah.
How do your awareness days and spring resets help skeptics find a low pressure path to mental wellness?
Yeah.
I really loved this when I was reading about it.
Yeah. So we have, kind of hard to describe. We do 3 different events once a quarter. So, and they happen on a monthly basis. So every quarter we have a mind, body, spirit day, and every quarter we have a mixer. And they're going to take a different shape all the time. But we really want to create a positive, uplifting space where people can come together, and we're not going to dive into the deep end, because it's usually centered around something fun or something, movement oriented or whatever, that's going to be an easier on-ramp to a conversation.
Yeah.
So sometimes the hardest part of talking about mental health or mental wellness is breaking the ice. And so to know that you're going into a space where this is an acceptable thing to talk about, but we don't necessarily have to spend the whole time, diving into that, can be an easy on-ramp. So for example, we did our spring reset was, I think it was back in April. We met in downtown Richmond, took a walk. There were supposed to be 2 groups, one jogging and one walking. But, when you walk, you can talk, and you're shoulder to shoulder. And so things come out, whether it's deep or just for fun, as you're in shoulder to shoulder conversation, that wouldn't necessarily come out if we were sitting face to face like you and I are right now. And so it creates kind of that on-ramp for, we're doing something, but we're also talking while we're doing something. And then we went back to Truffle and Rye. Shout out to Truffle and Rye.
Yes.
And we got breakfast, and we sat down and we had an activity about what seeds are you planting in your life. So we talked about different areas of wellness, like I've said already. And, what am I going to do for my physical wellness this spring? What am I going to do for my social wellness this spring? And we actually wrote down things. And then as a community, people who wanted to got up and shared about that. And I was so proud of, like, there was this little boy who got up and he was like first to go. And then he pressured his dad into going, which was amazing, and that. So, and then the community was just like really supportive. And so once a quarter, we're having these events where we're paying a little attention to your mind, your body, and your spirit, and getting out and doing, something somewhat active. So, it could be pickleball, it could be a boot camp, it could be yoga, it could be all kinds of things where we're hopefully being outside, but then also, participating in something like that kind of opens up relationally, but also some introspection as well. So, and then awareness days, we're creating events and sometimes they're just in alignment with whatever mental health awareness it happens to be that month. So for example, next month is June, mind, body, and spirit. And so it's men's health month. And so we are focusing on men's mental health also that month. And so there will be a bit of, it will only be for men. Anybody can come, but we will address that topic. But that's not the only thing we're going to do. It's not like sitting in a group circle where you're having kind of a group therapy session. It's going to be a lot more interactive and a lot more social than that.
You've stated your mission is fewer suicides in Fort Bend County. What is the most dangerous myth about mental health that you see specifically affecting our neighbors in Fort Bend?
Yeah. The idea that when you hear that somebody is struggling with their mental health or they have a diagnosis or they've been admitted to the hospital or something like that, people tend to scatter. And in my opinion, that's exactly the opposite of what should happen.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think they scatter?
Yeah.
A fear of saying the wrong thing or the fear of the unknown. I think it's fear. I'm not sure if I could pinpoint exactly what the fear is, but I can imagine because I remember as a pastor, I experienced one of my kids was admitted into a hospital and I fumbled this so badly in hindsight that I kind of laugh at myself because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I reached out to the mom and I was like, hey, I don't really know what the situation is, if you're at the hospital and you need something, or if it would be helpful if I brought a meal. And so, I needed some education on what would be actually helpful. And so I did end up bringing them a meal, but like in that situation at a behavioral health hospital, you're not staying with your loved one like you might if they have a heart attack. A close friend of ours had a heart attack last fall, and it was comical how much everybody was tripping over themselves to bring things up to the hospital to make it easier on his wife. And we joked, we're like, you're going to have to move your apartment from the ICU down to the regular place because she had everything she could possibly need. And it was incredible. And I'm like, I'm so thankful that we have a community that does that for people. And what if we rallied in a similar way around people whose loved ones were struggling with whatever aspect of mental health, and what a difference that would make for the person who is struggling to know that their people love them so much and that love doesn't just show up, after a tragedy happens, but it shows up in the moment when they can still feel it and they can experience it. Yeah, I just have a lot of what ifs like that. It's not necessarily a myth. It's a mist of what happens behind this curtain exists only behind the curtain. And once you've been through it, then and you could talk about it with people. Oh. But somebody has to be willing to come outside and be like, hey, everybody, let me tell you what I saw back there. And that communities, instead of being afraid of that, lean in and go, oh, I hate that for you. Let me be really specific about how I can show up. Let me, send you some fajitas, or let me come over and clean your house because you're overwhelmed, or, all the things that we know to do in other situations, they apply here too. So
I love that more than I love anything I've ever heard in my life because it's true. Mm-hmm. And I can't say that I've thought about that before with people going through that. Because, people have babies and they're like, let's bring you meals.
Yes.
But it's like, this is another important
it's still health.
Thing that's happening.
Yeah, it's still health.
And I have to admit, I've been somebody who's afraid to say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I sometimes don't say.
And it's normal. And I think if we come at it going, this may be the wrong thing to say, but I'm going to risk it anyways because I care about you and I want to show you that I love you. I have learned in this whole process to be the awkward person who's like, hey, if you need somebody to go for a walk with you, I'm there. Or, hey, I see that you're struggling. If you want to talk on the phone, I will give you a call. Like sometimes we have to offer the one thing. I don't think we give people like if you need any help, because they might not even be able to get out of bed. But if we can be really specific about a thing that we can do for them, I'm at HEB, can I bring you something? Those are the things that can really make a difference for somebody. And you're probably not going to know the exact right thing to say, but your presence says as much as it needs to. So, yeah. I don't know that sitting with my friend in Nashville that I had anything smart to say. I listened. I just was like, if you want to talk about it, I'm here. But also, like, we walked her dog and we made smoothie bowls, and, you know, like, it was also the nothing. It was just the, like, doing everyday chores of life. So sometimes don't worry about it, what you have to say. Just be a person in the room. I mean, when my friend came over the night that we dropped our kid off, if she said anything, I have absolutely no recollection of that. But I remember that she came.
And she was there.
Yeah.
And you weren't alone.
Yeah. And that my tears were not too much. Yeah.
And they're not.
No. No.
They're not right now either.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you. Last week was your event, Hope in Motion.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Hope in Motion is a 1.8 mile non-competitive awareness walk. We had that. Yeah. I mean, and it is such, you think about like a mental health or suicide prevention walk, and that sounds like it could be a downer. But we're super intentional about not making it that. We want it to be a day full of hope. We've got a sunshine in our logo for a reason. Yes. Because, you know, shining that light it matters. It's important. And so the day is full of like temporary tattoos and puppies and Star Wars, what do you call them? Cosplay people.
Stop.
Like,
that's amazing.
It's full of fun and hope and light and good music. And, you know, we have a whole area for kids. And along with that, there's a few moments where we recognize the people that we've lost. But those are small, intentionally small. We want to make sure that there's space for it, but we also don't want it to be the focus because we're about bringing hope. And so the day we had about 500 people come out.
Amazing.
We raised over $35,000, which I'm thrilled about. Yes. And, so, you know, we had so many incredible sponsors. We had nonprofit partners who came out and shared about the resources that they have to offer. And, amazing. You know, we gave prizes for our biggest fundraisers and our biggest team. And we had a little program where one of my favorite moments during the program was we have what we call a color ceremony, and you'll actually see I'm wearing a couple of my wristbands, for the day. And each one has a meaning of how people are connected to the cause. And so we had one representative from each of those aspects come up, and we put together a giant canvas with butterflies in each of the colors. And, you know, they came up and represented their group of people, whether it was like your relationship to a person that you've lost, supporting somebody who struggles, supporting the cause, all of those sorts of things. So we took a moment to recognize that, and I'm excited about how that canvas turned out because it's beautiful. It's going to be for sale at our gala in the fall. So
that's amazing.
If you liked it,
gala in the fall.
Yes, coming up. Yep.
Are you all going to post pictures of it online and stuff?
Yes, okay, we're waiting for the photographers to finish editing and then provide those back to us. But yeah, there'll be pictures, and I think we got drone footage and all sorts of things. So,
oh my gosh, that's so great.
But one of the reasons it's a walk and it's non-competitive is because, like I said earlier, those conversations happen on the walk, and these are an easy way to identify, oh, you have a connection to the cause that's similar to mine, and can help break down those walls and start those conversations.
Great idea.
Which is really cool. Yeah. We met as a committee for dinner the other night, and we're already dreaming about next year. So, but I'm thrilled with the turnout from our first ever event. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations
Thanks.
On that. And thank you for doing that. And I love the bracelet idea. That's such a great way to have a soft opening connection. Because like you said, sometimes the hardest part is like breaking the ice.
Right.
And there's this instant moment of like, okay, felt safety. You know where I've been, or you know, you're there
Yes.
with me too.
Yes. It felt like 1,000% humidity that morning, but
Yeah.
it was still a great day.
Yeah, we just ponytail it up and we just keep moving.
Oh, man.
You have a bold goal to train 150 care leaders in 2026. For a parent or a business owner listening, what does that mean to be certified in awareness of response and empathy?
So our care leader designation program it's a certification, and I worked for Chevron for about 3 years. And this comes from the idea of like, we were in the very tall towers downtown, and I volunteered as a fire warden on my floor, which meant that if the fire alarm ever got pulled or we had a fire drill in our building, it was my responsibility to go through all the rooms on our floor and make sure that no one was left behind, and I was the last to leave.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I had this little like armband or something that I was supposed to wear in the event that something like that happened. But I was like, what if we had an opportunity for people who could self-identify as a helper to learn what to do, to say, okay, in my school, in my office, in my faith community, in my whatever, I will be a person that will know the warning signs. I'll know how to have a conversation and how to connect somebody with care. And so we invite people to come and do that. The cost is relatively low. It's $10 mostly, just so that we can be sure you're going to use your ticket.
Yeah.
But we're going to do that. And I would love to see care leaders all over the county. You get a certificate. You can hang it up in your office if you want to. What if more people were equipped with that knowledge? We have somebody from the crisis intervention team come in and talk about what they do on the law enforcement side of things. And then there's a middle window where, we've talked about digital wellness at a previous one. This upcoming one, we're going to talk about men's mental health, because, it's definitely an area that needs a little more light shine on it. So
Everyone can be trained on how to get everyone out of the building.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign up.
Good.
I want to do this.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
Bring your people.
I was going to say, I mean, I can just talk to people about it and just in my community and
Yes.
stuff, but like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That's so encouraging and beautiful. And I feel like you're providing people with just all of the tools.
I hope so. Yeah, that's the intention. So
Yeah.
more to come. We're just getting started.
Oh, I feel like we're on the precipice, baby. Like
We
we're
are.
just like the anticipation
Yes, we are.
of just what you guys are doing is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. In a digital world full of noise, how do you ensure your message of hope actually cuts through to save those lives?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, because there is a lot of talk out there. And one of the things that I think we're doing differently is we are assembling a team of mental health professionals to help oversee that, so that that guidance, even if it comes from, for lack of a better word, a layperson like me, I'm a realtor by trade.
Right.
But I have somebody to look over it and make sure that it is in keeping with the standards of today. The other thing that I think, really good advice, insight, things like that, because of the perspective that it's coming from, first of all. The second thing that I would say is one of the differentiators for us would be that hyper-local focus of Fort Bend County. So there's a lot of stuff that's, it's generic. It fits the topic, but when you add that local element where, okay, it's this person from this practice or this particular group therapy session that I can get myself involved in or something like that, that we are telling people about, I think those things are going to make the difference. And so,
Yes.
This one is still kind of in the works. We are getting all of our processes set up to be able to start publishing those blog posts.
Yeah.
But it is coming very soon.
Yes.
And we've got a great team of people who are eager to help, and that is growing every day. Every time I talk to mental health professionals, they're getting excited about what we're doing, and they see the need for somebody to bridge the gap between the need and then the provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
and we hear, you can go on Instagram and see a whole lot of people who have experiences but aren't professionals. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't take everyone with a microphone's advice.
That's true.
Except ours today. But, so
You have to filter it through
right,
a
but by
good filter.
you guys
Yeah.
doing that.
Yes.
And kind of filtering it for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are professionals. These
Yes. So I'm always leaning on them. Can we say this? What would you change about that? Yeah. So one of the people on our board, her name is Anamali. She's a doctor, and she has so much wisdom that, I'm really thankful that we can bend her ear and say, are we on the right track with this messaging? What would you change about it? And she's challenged me on a few things, and I'm like, okay, good. So I'm learning every day.
I love amazing people who can challenge us and, help us to be better.
Yes.
So I love that you're also surrounding yourself with that, because that means you're surrounding our community with that.
Yeah.
How do you find room for laughter and lightness in a career that is so deeply intertwined with community trauma and grief?
Life is funny, isn't it? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah. You have to stop and take those moments. I think about Walking Maverick, and the way that his little booty wiggles when we walk down the street just makes me laugh, and the way that he feels like a big dog, I think, is funny. But also, the people that you surround yourself with they can either, help bring that uplifting spirit, or they can drag it down. So you have to be intentional about who's in your circle, who's in your close circle, and, making time for the fun things. I love a funny Instagram reel.
Yeah.
A decent comedy show, all those sorts of things. Like, when you think about life, even in the dark things, there's humor. There's always something to laugh about. And so, yeah, I think just giving permission for that is probably the best advice I'd have on that. It's just that it's okay to laugh.
But I think sometimes we get so bogged down in the stuff.
Right. I was thinking about at our walk, we were doing the canvas, and we had these like special moments, the one serious moment of the whole morning. And it was so humid that the glue dots that were supposed to hold up the butterflies were completely worthless. So the butterflies kept slipping down.
No.
And we're like, still having this really meaningful moment, but just kind of laughing because, what do? You can't fight nature. So
that's so true. And that just goes to show you we need to laugh sometimes. Yes. We just need to laugh in these moments.
Well, and I loved it because the people who were involved were so precious. They kept like trying to put it back up there and get it to stick. They will be more permanent when the art is for sale.
Yes, no, I have no doubts. So it'll be stored inside somebody's house. Like,
indoors, climate controlled space.
Even in these dark seasons of life, like to look at things like your dog's cute little butt while you're walking and just say there's joy.
Yes.
And we can find it.
They coexist. Yeah.
I love that you just said they coexist.
They do. I mean, if we didn't have the dark times, we might not appreciate the light times as much. So I think, it's important to recognize that both are part of the human experience, and we can't push away with one, or we'll miss out on all of it.
Yes, that's so true. And it's like we don't want to go through all this stuff. But gosh, that sunrise is gorgeous after that storm. You host quarterly town hall meetings to share, listen, and take action. What is one thing you've heard from a Fort Bend resident in those meetings that completely shifted your strategy?
Mm-hmm. Man, one thing kind of goes back to where those town halls came from. So somebody in our community showed up in Judge Christian Becerra's chambers to build a float. And they had an awful story. They lost their daughter to suicide 2 weeks before this day that they showed up to help with this float. He holds a mental health court, and I guess they heard about it somehow and thought this is a space where we can be seen and we can be heard. And they had a very bad experience when it comes to law enforcement and the school system and things like that. In their story, and it motivated Judge Becerra to say, let's get people in the room, let's have conversations about this. And some of the things that have come out of that I'm the most proud of is we have partnerships with law enforcement as a result of that, this horrible story. And I have to shout out the family, like Love Like Levy, their daughter has her own story, and they were so courageous to tell their story that it was a spark that lit like what is happening with this whole thing. Yeah, hearing another mom's story in that space after about a year of meeting, going, this is wrong, we shouldn't do this. We started going, okay, but what are we going to do? And so this nonprofit was born out of that. So I am proud to say that we have partnerships with a school district. We have law enforcement officers who come in and join us on the regular. And so another moment kind of down the road was teaching a law enforcement officer or several of them in a room who were not aware of the 988 phone number.
Yeah.
And so even just getting in a room and having I was surprised by that fact. But I'm like, we're learning from each other.
You don't know what you don't know.
We're learning from, the perspectives of other people and the roles that they have in the thing that they've been given, authority over. And so by turning that tragedy into a place where we can have dialogues, a place where we can learn, a place where we can do better because we've learned, okay, this was a failure, this was a mistake, probably unintentional, but harmful nonetheless. So like, let's make sure that that we're equipped and we're ready to take better care of people, whatever stage of this process they are, whether it is, after a loss or backing it all the way up to, somebody beginning to struggle with their mental health.
It's incredible what you guys have turned these tragedies into and a space for.
I have a really passionate team. When it's impacted you and you've been through the hard stuff that our team has gone through, I think what's beautiful about their hearts is that they don't want anybody else to experience what they've experienced, and that they're willing to go to great lengths to alleviate that pain for other people.
Yeah.
And so we're 100% volunteer driven. We don't have anybody who is on our staff or anything. So everything that we're doing is all a passion project.
Wow.
So,
That's incredible.
I am honored and humbled to have been chosen to lead that. And so I also see like the potential and the partnerships that we're building and where this could possibly go to improve mental wellness and see less suicides in Fort Bend County.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to take all of us. It's going to take community.
Yeah, but we can do that.
Mm-hmm. It's going to take some education. It's going to take some advocacy. So,
but thank you for leading the charge in that. People want to help, but sometimes don't know how. And by you guys leading that charge and
giving opportunities or even like direction of like what would actually make a difference.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So many people want to, but they don't know how. So that's
right. And I've talked about our mental health professionals, but like I said, we're mostly just volunteers who are we don't necessarily have all the credentials to be doing what we're doing. But there are other opportunities. I mean, we have event planning, we have a communications team, we have all sorts of things where people, every day people can get involved and put their efforts. So
absolutely. Yeah. And we will. Oh my gosh, I'm like so motivated. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. We're going to run through a wall.
I'm ready. You speak on the exponential power of showing up. How has your definition of a successful day changed from your corporate years to your current life in advocacy?
Sometimes I think it's the quiet things that are meaningful. When I sat with my friend and I watched that transformation, and as I've watched the light come back into my kids' life, like it wasn't big things. It was little things like the way that my daughter now says, hey, this is bothering me and we need to talk through it. Like that's such a small thing, but man, like it's such a transformation from where we started.
Right.
And so I think when you consider that the small things are the big things, that can really change everything. I mean, it's the little things that add up over time to become the big things. Writing in my gratitude journal is a very small thing. And some days it's been a struggle. You're like, I'm in a bad mood. I'm not thankful for anything. But man, if I can just think of 3 things that that I'm thankful for, that small little thing can shift your perspective and remind you of what you actually have accessible to you. And so I think my change is, it's not the big mountaintop things. It's not, receiving the award. It's not those things that actually accumulates. It's the little tiny steps that we take for ourselves and for the people in our lives that actually make the biggest impact, especially when we do them with consistency. So
Yes. And I think that that's what you just said is super powerful, is especially doing it with consistency. Because, girl, that's hard sometimes.
It is.
For anything.
Which is why Alexa has to tell me to walk the dog.
But you're consistently doing it. You're doing it, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all deserve more gold stars. And that sometimes as adults, we have to give them to ourselves. Our teacher's not necessarily going to put it on our paper anymore, but we should give ourselves more gold stars, because showing up some days can be tough. And if we do the little thing, like, it builds, it compounds, and the impact of that becomes a much bigger thing down the road. We know it's true when it comes to our physical health. We know that, eating mindfully, exercising, all those sorts of things, that the impact of that compounds over time. So I think we need to do that for ourselves and give us the gold stars we need along the way.
Yes.
So
we definitely need to do that. Yeah. More like, give yourself flowers, man.
Yes. And by the way, I'm giving you a gold star before the end of this, like a literal one. Yeah.
I get a gold star.
You get a gold star.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, because you're holding these conversations and it's meaningful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's in my purse. I'll give you that.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was just emotional gold star.
No, it's a literal gold star.
I'm so excited.
It's a pin. You're going to love it.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to wear it very proudly. I love a pin. I love a brooch. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yeah.
As the president of Fort Bend Mental Health, you see the statistics every day. What is one small win, as we were just talking about, the small wins, or a specific moment of transformation you've witnessed recently that reminded you of that the work is working?
Yeah. I've shared quite a few already, but I'm going to tell you a story that just happened on Monday. So our event was Saturday, and Sunday or Saturday, somebody found that we had accidentally left a box at the park where we had our walk. And the box had images of loved ones, so pictures that had been on the memory wall, but also like these butterflies where people could write inspirational things with a Sharpie, and then they would tie it up to the wall. And so he found this box of a bunch of pictures and some butterflies. Didn't really know what it was, but somehow had a phone number for the walk chair, Gretchen Yax, who happens to also be on our board. And he reached out to her and said, "Hey, I have this. I don't really know what it is, but it seems like it belongs to you." And so she coordinated with one of our community members to meet him to pick it up. It eventually ended up on my porch, but the story behind it was when our community member met with this guy, they got into a conversation about what was in the box and why it had happened. And so she told him about the walk, and he just kind of went, "I lost my two best friends to suicide. I had no idea that this existed." And so our committee was just kind of taken aback by this person who probably needs a community like ours, where that is a normal thing that we talk about, because most of us have experienced something like that. And to feel like there's a place for him with that weighty story. And so, that happened 2 days ago, and I anticipate that he's going to be at some of our upcoming events. So, but yeah, I think that realization that I'm not alone happens all the time in our community. So that's just one example.
That was kismet. I was supposed to find that box.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And that is one of those, and I say small, using the word very loosely, that is a small win. Mm-hmm. Huge.
Yes. Yeah.
If this episode is the only thing a struggling person in Fort Bend hears today, what is the core message you want to leave in their heart? Oh, am I getting all...
I want that person to know that you matter, that whatever is weighing on you does not define you. It is part of your story, and I hope that you'll stick around and that you'll be willing to sit with those feelings until they float away and move on to the next ones when the sun rises. And so come, sit with us. We got a spot for you because you belong here. That's what I'd want them to know.
And they do. For those ready to move forward from listening to doing, what is the first step that they should take on the Fort Bend Mental Health website right now?
So come visit us, fbmentalhealth.com.
Yes.
At the top of the page or at the little hamburger menu, there's a link that says Get Involved, and you're going to find some different options under there, but that would be the first place that I would go.
Perfect.
So, yeah. if you want to volunteer, the get involved one is the right way to go. If you just want to kind of like scope us out, see what we're like, come to our events page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will. We all will. Beyond the Hope in Motion Walk and the Care Leader trainings, what is the seed of hope you want to plant in the legacy of Fort Bend County for the next generation of leaders?
Yeah. I want the helpers to feel equipped and empowered so that, because there is a heavy weight on our mental health professionals, and they're sitting in the rooms, they're having the conversations, and they're incredible. But there's another layer to this that I really wish people were aware of, and that is the everyday person, the neighbors, the coworkers, a role that they can play that makes a difference. There's a spot for you in building mental wellness and reducing the number of suicides in Fort Bend County. So
just by being who you are,
yeah,
you're saving lives. Honestly, just showing up as you are.
Yeah.
And holding space for people.
Mm-hmm.
Dana, this conversation has been incredible. I just want to say thank you. And it feels trite to just be like, thank you. But like for your vulnerability and sharing your stories and for being who you are to this community. I am so grateful for the way you've taken up the burden of the things you've gone through and your loved ones have gone through. You're turning it to change the lives of people around us and saving lives. I don't take it lightly, and I just value you and your team so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being who you are.
Thank you for giving us a space and a platform to talk about this. And, you know, one of the stickers that we made for our community is, it's a little more on the masculine side. It's got a big, like, strong arm with our little sunshine as a tattoo on it. But it says vulnerability is strength. And I truly believe that, you know, the more of us who are willing, because the longer I do this work, the more I realized people have stories. They just don't tell you their stories. And once they get vulnerable, you see that strength in them. And so thank you so much for the opportunity to show you some of my scars that have, you know, that are a strength. But yeah, I hope that we can create a community where that is not uncommon, where that is the norm, and it's kind of just how we all behave. So
yeah. We're doing it.
Yeah.
I say we now. I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm part
okay,
of it.
good. I'm glad.
I'm all in. This is amazing.
You're in.
Thank you. Can I hug you on, like hug you right
Yes.
now? I usually wait till after, but like, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we did it.
Yay.